Brian Jackson reporting for infowars.com. Ladies and gentlemen, our first story today is the new Black Panther Party and the neo-Nazis hijacked Trayvon Martin case. The mainstream media is actually all over a neo-Nazi group who are allegedly attempting to occupy Florida. They state they're not advocating violence, however, they state that they are ready for it. On the other side of the coin, we have a group calling themselves the new Black Panther Party. This group has made quotes such as, "It's time to get suited and booted up for the coming race war." They also state that they are pissed off that Florida ain't on fire, and that this would never happen in LA because people know how to riot. When groups like the new Black Panther Party have a visual in the memory of this poor young man who lost his life that day, and the flyer for this visual shows the shooter, one George Zimmerman, who at that point had not even been charged. However, when they show that individual, again, another American citizen, another sovereign human being, when they show him in a scope and crosshairs, and also issue a reward for him with founding members of this new Black Panther Party stating that this gentleman is wanted dead or alive. Well, when these things start happening, what we're talking about is we're talking about vigilante justice. And I find it very ironic that a group of quote-unquote black activists would call for something as horrendous as vigilante justice. Vigilante justice is simply another term for, well, a righteous lynching. Another interesting factor is that the new Black Panther Party has, in fact, no connection to the original Black Panther Party. In fact, one of the founders of the original Black Panther Party that was founded in 1966, and it was originally founded as the Black Panther Party for self-defense, Bobby Seale openly called the new Black Panther Party a black racist hate group. In fact, the Huey P. Newton Foundation, which is ran by surviving members of that 1966 original Black Panther Party, they stated that this new party has no affiliation with them whatsoever. Actually, they even took them to court at one time. And they also asked, is this a group of agent provocateurs who would willingly or unwittingly lead people down a road towards ignorance and violence? Another interesting fact, and this brings me to our second headline today, which is entitled "The Southern Poverty Law Center on the New Black Panthers. There's no such thing as hate speech." And it boils down to this. The director of the Southern Poverty Law Center, and his name was Mark Potok, when asked about the incendiary remarks brought forth by the new Black Panther Party, again, blood in the streets and what have you, and asked to comment on whether or not it was hate speech, he said, and I quote, "There is no such thing as hate speech." He then appeared to backpedal slightly, stating, well, there must be incitement or an element of immediacy for authorities to intervene. My point is this. We need to question why exactly this group, the New Black Panthers, are allowed to espouse this blatantly racist rhetoric. Why, in fact, they're giving a microphone and allowed to broadcast this blatant hate speech into the living rooms of American citizens across the country. And why a group such as the Southern Poverty Law Center, which is usually a very strong proponent and actually one of the first groups to point a finger when there's the slightest inkling of political correctness awry, why a group such as the Southern Poverty Law Center is going to really defend this by stating, when questioned about the new Black Panther speech, by stating there's no such thing and then backpedaling and mentioning how, well, there needs to be immediacy as far as violence. We need to be rational about this. People are generally good, and race in general is something that we really need to get over entirely, because as human beings, we're all sharing an experience. And granted, my experience may be different than yours and vice versa, but it's our different experiences and our agreement to come together and live with one another and share our individual experiences. These are the things that make life worth living. So, an era of fearing your fellow man, is putting us in a level where we're not looking at humanity in the broader, more beautiful way of love and unity and progress. Where instead, if you're afraid all the time, you retreat inward. And you retreat inward and, like a child, ask for protection. Well, what if, and we have every reason to believe, that governments are always going to reach, or that not all government should be trusted. And our government especially, be it, 9/11 to, fluoride in the water, to just all sorts of legislation, and even history past, from slavery on up. And it's not about slavery. Again, racism, I liken racism to a hangover that we all collectively need to sober up from immediately. It's ridiculous at this point, and we need to get over that so that we can delight in each other's differences, come together, and move humanity forward in light and not darkness. So I think the media is doing not just this country a disservice, but humanity as a whole, because we internalize what we see on TV. Our subconscious internalizes things, and even if you're not aware that when you're watching TV and it's espousing, crime constantly, or hate constantly, or murder, or what have you, even if you're not aware that that affects your thinking, your subconscious internalizes that, and you're going to be much more apt to be fearful of your fellow man. There's a great movie. It was a movie in the 1940s. It was called The Great Dictator, but it starred Charlie Chaplin. Has a phenomenal speech. You can YouTube it. But it starts off, or he quotes and he says, "I don't want to rule or conquer anyone. Human beings want to live by each other's happiness, not each other's misery." And that's something that we need to take. We need to really take at heart, because really, who is it that it's the individual that wants to be a dictator. It's the individual that wants to control another human being, that wants that human being to live in fear. If you're a confident person and you're filled with love and you're filled with belief in humanity, are you going to be more likely to ask for to let someone else be sovereign over you as an individual? No. But at the same time, if you're that same confident, loving human being who believes in the divinity of the human spirit, and we don't have to get religious here, but it believes in at least the sacredness of every individual, you also aren't going to want to impose your will on someone else. So we have a dichotomy going on where pop culture as a whole, and this story is just one example of that. The tragedy is that, yes, we lost an individual, a sovereign individual, a young man lost his life. We don't know the case. We don't know all of the circumstances surrounding this. What I do know is that he does deserve justice, and justice should be done for his family's sake and for the sake of justice itself. But what we don't need to do is muddy and pollute the waters with all this rhetoric, blood in the streets, race war, and all this. And I am incredibly suspect of any group that would be calling for that, and any media that would give them attention.